Well, we've got to start somewhere, so we started at this valve that I just happened to drive by. I know that this green space right here did not come on during my inspection, so I suspected this valve was one of the ones I needed to search for. Well, I didn't need to use my locator to find it because it was quite obvious with the lid right there. I could see it. Let's see why it wasn't working from the controller. We've got a battery-operated timer right here, and that's what's controlling this valve. That's what's been keeping all of this green. They're weeds, but they're green. We're going to take out our Tempo 521E locator. We're going to connect it to what looks like is the field wire for this and go back to the controller to see if we can identify it and see why we're having this issue. I don't see a reason or any construction down the line that would tell me that the wire got broken between here and the controller. So that's what we're going to start with. Just an interesting observation. I removed the wire nut off this wire and it hadn't been stripped back. That doesn't mean that somebody didn't just cut off the tip and put the wire nut on it, but it leads me to start to believe, since this is like the last valve on this area here, maybe they just gave up on this valve. Maybe they didn't want to water this area. I don't know. Either way, it's a green space within this property, so it needs to get watered from this controller. So we're going to go chase that red wire anyway. With the locator set up way behind the store over there, sending a signal all the way around the store, around this lake, and up to this controller, we have used our low voltage meter to identify that the wire is somewhere over here. Maybe one of these bottom three wires. I want to go ahead and pinpoint which one that is, so I'm going to pull out my Armada multimeter and I'm going to start sticking the prong in the last three here. All right, I'm going to leave the camera on the multimeter. I'm going to move to the next wire. Still getting 0.2 volts. Move to the very last wire, and there you see we got 37 volts. That's the wire that our tracker is connected to on the other end. Happens to be connected to zone 48 over here. And as I go back to my map to review where this zone is located versus what zone number it should be, I'm looking over here at zone 18, 19. This should be zone 20. 19 is still missing. We'll find it shortly, but this should be zone 20. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out, still have my multimeter out, I'm going to move it over to ohms. I want to go and check zone 20, which will be 4 from the bottom here because these are 12 zone modules. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one will be 20. I want to check to see if I have continuity on that one. And I do, which means that this zone 20 was going to a valve somewhere, and it's entirely possible it's going to a bubbler valve. Zone 20 did not turn on during my inspection because it does not appear on my map. I am going to turn on zone 20 right now, and then I'm going to watch the pressure gauge to see if the pressure gauge goes down, which will tell me that hydraulically it opened. Then I'll go look for it to see if it's in the field. Now, if nothing happens to this gauge, and I'm still obviously getting a good reading on the solenoid, that will likely mean that it is a bubbler zone that is no longer being used. In which case, I'm going to move the wire from zone 48 to zone 20, and we'll leave the wire for zone 20 hanging because we won't need it anymore. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that now before I make the change. Well, that definitely turned on a zone. It turned on a rotor zone that I had mislabeled on my map. So now I know. What I'm going to do is flip-flop those two wires so that we get everything in order. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to the next valve. Oh yeah, I'm totally not passing that up. Why walk? It went so well the first time, almost dropped the phone. We are out at IKEA in Sunrise today to perform a bunch of repairs. We've got a main line leak that we just repaired to get the system up and running. Before we did that, the Hoover pump station would cycle and cycle until it protected itself and shut itself down. Just reported to the people inside that we got the system back up and running because when I arrived this morning, it was up and running. So the main line has been secured. We also located a few valves yesterday, answered a few unanswered questions, got one of those 3 valves working. We're back out today to go look for a few more valves and make some repairs to some of the heads if we've got time. So let's get started.